Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
What day is it today? Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday.
Today, all of our guests, including J-Pat, standing by, brought to you by the Alberni Power Marine RPM Group, located in Port Alberni. Alberni Power Marine is one of Vancouver Island's most trusted boat dealerships, the largest Mercury Marine dealership in Canada. Their service team just won for the 4th straight year a customer satisfaction index score above the national average. Make your appointment for the 2022 boating season at albernipowermarine.com. From the Rink-wide podcast, Sakaris and Price, we bring in Jeff Paterson, back from Hawaii, we think. Yeah, Jeff? There he is.
There he is.
You're in the same room.
Yeah. I didn't go anywhere. This is just a closet in my basement.
Yeah. Rick was...
closets. My greatest regret...
Where are we going with that?
My greatest regret was that I didn't raid Dollywall's closet, but there's too many skeletons in there. I don't want any...
You don't want to be in my closet, believe me.
No.
But did you at least buy a Hawaiian shirt, Jeff? Did you buy one?
You've got them all. You've cornered the market. There are none for sale. They said Dollywall's got them all.
Hey,
so.
I got a new one tomorrow. Don't tell him I got it at Bella's Fair. It's a beauty. It's going to be nice.
Yeah, there's no more Hawaiian shirts in Bellingham.
Yeah,
your secret's safe with me. I won't say a word to him.
Don't say anything. Don't say anything.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Rick. Hey, Jeff, Battle of Alberta. You've seen a few. What do you expect?
A little different hockey than the mid-'80s, certainly. The highlights you showed right at the top, it was incredible when they were all trying to get at Glenn Sather. You just look at who's on that Calgary team. McCowan, Tim Hunter, Nick Matteo, Jim Poplinski, and that was just, then you could have come up with another line of guys like Paul Baxter and Neil Sheehy, Gary Roberts, a young Gary Roberts, Joel Otto. And then the Oilers, of course, had Semenko and McSorley, Kevin McClellan, on and on it went, Messier. It was just incredible. One of my memories of the Battle of Alberta, and I don't know why this has stuck with me all these years, but I was watching YouTube the other day, was McSorley spearing Mike Bullard on a line change.
Yes,
you don't see many spears in today's NHL, but my goodness, did McSorley get his money's worth. I hope Mike Bullard's okay all these years later, because he absolutely went to town with the spear. We're talking playoff hockey, and there's McSorley, just the pitchfork on Mike Bullard on a line change, hops over the bench, and is met by McSorley's stick. So what do I expect tonight?
Or in the series.
Well, the atmosphere is going to be incredible. I mean, it's been a long time. It is crazy that it's taken this long for these two teams. The league went to a format that was to promote rivalries, and still it's taken a while to get to this. Although I suppose the proof's in the pudding now with a Battle of Alberta and a Battle of the Sunshine State that the playoff format can produce the rivalries that the National Hockey League is looking for. I heard you, Donnie. I want to see Connor McDavid pick up where he left off. The parts of the series that I watched in the first round. He was incredible and seemed to get better as that series went along. I think there's going to be some goals scored, and maybe that plays into Calgary's hands because clearly Jake Ottinger got into their head. He was amazing. Jacob Markstrom was almost as good, but kind of got overshadowed by the heroics of Jake Ottinger, and ultimately it took overtime, but the Calgary Flames' best players stepped up. And you look at the Calgary scoring in the opening round. I mean, there weren't a lot of goals scored, but the guys that were doing the scoring were the ones that you would expect, that top line. What I think the Flames would tell you they need more of is the depth and balance that they've assembled, whether it's Toffoli, whether it's Backlund, whether it's Dylan Dubé, Blake Coleman, on and on it goes. They have rounded out the roster. I think the Flames feel that they're a better team, a deeper team, but it's one thing to say it. They need those guys to show up and actually produce. So, Mike Smith had a couple of shutouts. Mike Smith obviously can play at a high level. We also know that there's sort of two sides to Mike Smith. I'm not expecting his game is going to be at Jake Ottinger's level. And so for the Calgary Flames, obviously they've got to find a way to control and contain Connor McDavid. Easier said than done. But maybe getting a chance to fire pucks at Mike Smith is going to result in a few more goals for the Calgary Flames than they scored in that Dallas series.
Jeff, your first thoughts on Bruce Boudreau back with the Canucks. We didn't get to talk to you last week about Bruce. He's back. We're all hearing about analytics, this, that, the coaching staff. Still some decisions, but at least he's back and they can start moving forward.
Yeah, and ultimately not surprised. I think he wanted to step away and decompress, and I believe him when he said, like, his mom's 90 years old and lives on her own in Toronto. What a character. I'd love to know a little bit more about her. And we know that Bruce is a character, and so I understand, like, he wanted to make sure that she is okay at her advanced age. And also, the hockey team that they own and oversee just wanted to make sure that the Ducks were in a row there. So this is a guy that was brought in on December the 5th and really, didn't get any let up. And as he talked about, it was just, win, just keep your nose to the grindstone. And so he needed a couple of weeks to exhale. So I'm not surprised that he stepped back. But ultimately, I was anticipating that he would return as the head coach of the Vancouver Canucks. So now the questions are, who does he work with? What does his staff look like? Will there be additions? Will there be subtractions? Is there going to be some more change in that area of the hockey club? They said that, everybody's under review right now. And I guess I would think that that's probably the case. And then beyond that, what do those meetings look like as they move forward in terms of Bruce wanting to embrace analytics and, play a little bit more with a little more structure? As he said, he was so focused on just wins and losses that maybe he did let a few areas slip away, but ultimately it was at the end of the night, did they win? And more often than not, the answer was yes. So, there's going to have to be this meeting of the minds and get everybody on the same page. Fascinated to hear Jim Rutherford talking earlier in the week about wanting a little more sandpaper for this hockey team. And I thought that was really interesting. And when he says that, I didn't think the Canucks got pushed around at any point, but I also don't think the Vancouver Canucks is constructed or a team that leaves its mark on an opponent. So, I guess Jim Rutherford, a little bit old school in that sense, that wants a little more. We talked about sandpaper. Maybe he should go and watch some YouTube video of those battles of Alberta from the mid-'80s. But they've got Luke Schenn, and to a lesser degree, they've got a guy like Kyle Burrows, who, when he's in the lineup, is willing to stick up for teammates. So when I hear Jim Rutherford say something like that, I immediately point to the forward group. But I think that, there is some room for a little bit more, grit, I suppose. Sandpaper can mean so many things to so many people. At some point, Vasily Podkolzin is going to bring elements of that to his game. But, it's clear that they think in the Western Conference that they need a little bit more beef, a little more heft up front. It's funny. I was watching Colorado in overtime last night. It never really crossed my mind that the Avalanche needed more sandpaper in OT as they were out shooting the Blues 13-0. 13-0. So, again, I look at that Colorado team. You got Nazem Kadri, you've got Gabriel Landeskog.
Manson.
That's why you Manson as well. Yeah. But Curtis McDermott's their tough guy. He can't even get in their lineup at playoff time because they think that they've got enough skill and speed in front of him. But what a juggernaut! That was impressive. And again, you have to watch these playoffs sort of through that lens of how do the Canucks stack up against these types of teams, and how great is the gap for them to cover. And when you see Colorado firing on all cylinders the way they were in overtime last night, it's considerable. There's a long way to go for the Vancouver Canucks to get anywhere close to that level.
But Jeff, it's been 8 years. When Jim got here, he was supposed to turn the Canucks into the big bad Bruins, size and grit. It never ends in this city. The pursuit of size and grit every year. And here's the new regime, nothing against them. And one of the first things they say, we need size and grit. 8 years, and the Canucks never became a heavy team. It's just the pursuit for that in this city has been unbelievable.
Yeah, and I do wonder if Jim Rutherford is true to his word. I don't think he would offer that up for public consumption if he didn't believe that they needed to get a little heavier. I wonder about a guy like Nick Delorier, who is an unrestricted free agent, was second in the NHL in fighting majors. If that's what Jim Rutherford thinks is sandpaper, again, it can mean anything to anybody. But Delorier was sixth in the league in hits, fourth among forwards. Luke Schenn was also in the top five, so that would give you a couple of guys that play that robust style. But again, I look at the forward group, and I think that's where Jim Rutherford really means that they need a bit more grit to their game. So Nick Delorier, unrestricted free agent, 31 years old, played in Anaheim, obviously got traded to Minnesota, got hurt and didn't play in the final game of that series against the Blues. But that's just a name I loft out there. I'm not connecting it to the Canucks. I haven't heard that. But when I look at unrestricted free agents who certainly could bring sandpaper, a guy like Nick Delorier is one that jumped off the page at me. But, Rick, I come back to watching Colorado, and you watch the Edmonton Oilers, you watch the Tampa Lightning, Florida, the way that they're built. Sandpaper, sure. I mean, if you think that you need a little bit of that, but this Canucks team just needs more speed and more skill, ultimately.
Skill.
And there's a ton of room for improvement in that regard, and we know that there isn't much in the pipeline closet. And then it comes to these big questions about, are they willing to trade away one of their big pieces to address areas of weakness elsewhere in this lineup? That's why it doesn't matter how you come at this. It is going to be an eventful offseason for the Vancouver Canucks because they just need to get a whole lot better. And when they're up against the cap and they don't have much in the pipeline, I think the only other way to do that is to start making some trades. And we know that Jim Rutherford certainly has a long history of being active on the trade front and has been fairly quiet since overtaking the Vancouver Canucks job here. So I am expecting some fireworks here in the months ahead.
Okay, Jeff, we're going to let you go. We just want to point out to people when you talked about Marty McSorley spearing Mike Bullard, we're talking about the hockey player and not the TV talk show host. We just want to clear that up. The two different people.
I am glad you took care of that for your viewers, Donnie.
Although that would be quite the visual. Jeff, thanks for this. And good to see you back home.
Marty McSorley has a history of stick fouls. That maybe he got the other Mike Bullard somewhere along the line, too.
Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
We'll look into it. Thanks, Jeff.
All right, guys.